The morning began like any other, with Today with Jenna Friends airing live. The set was bright, the energy vibrant, and the audience full of anticipation for what was promised to be a light-hearted and entertaining segment. Carrie Underwood, fresh from her latest album release and with a packed schedule ahead, had been invited to join Jenna Hager and the other hosts for a fun-filled chat. Little did anyone know, what was about to unfold would capture the attention of millions. Carrie sat down with a smile, greeting the hosts with her characteristic warmth. Jenna greeted her with enthusiasm, calling Carrie a true country icon and complimenting her on her recent work. The interview started off smoothly, as Carrie responded graciously to questions about her career, her family, and her music. The hosts listened attentively, allowing Carrie to share her thoughts freely, and the conversation quickly turned to her upcoming projects, which Carrie eagerly discussed. However, things took a turn when one of the co-hosts, known for her no-holds-barred interviewing style, casually asked Carrie about a recent controversial statement she had made about the pressures of motherhood and being in the public eye. The question, though framed with a smile, seemed to catch Carrie off guard. She paused for a moment, her eyes narrowing slightly as the energy in the room shifted. It was clear she wasn't expecting to delve into such a personal topic on live television. Carrie, ever the professional, attempted to deflect the question, redirecting it back to her music and upcoming projects. But the host was persistent, pushing further into the issue, asking Carrie whether her comments were a reflection of dissatisfaction with her career or her life choices. Carrie's smile began to waver, and a faint tension started to simmer beneath the surface. The audience could feel the change, sensing that something was amiss. As the questioning continued, the tone in the room shifted noticeably. Carrie's usual grace was replaced by a subtle defensiveness. She answered briefly, but the responses were less polished than usual. Jenna, noticing the shift in Carrie's demeanor, attempted to steer the conversation back to safer ground, but the co-host wasn't ready to let go of the subject. This back and forth grew increasingly uncomfortable, with Carrie visibly growing frustrated as her personal boundaries were crossed. With a slight sigh, Carrie shifted in her seat, and her body language became more closed off. The tension grew palpable, and the viewers at home could sense that something was escalating. It wasn't just a disagreement, it was a clash of personal boundaries and professional expectations. Carrie, whose public persona had always been carefully curated, seemed to be struggling with the violation of her private space, and it showed. The moment came to a head when the co-host, pushing further, commented on Carrie's decision to keep certain aspects of her life private, asking why she wasn't more open about her family life, especially given her fame. Carrie, now visibly uncomfortable, snapped. "I'm allowed to have boundaries," she said, her tone sharp and uncharacteristically defensive. The words hung in the air for a moment, and the entire studio seemed to freeze. The audience, once lively, fell silent. Jenna tried to step in quickly, attempting to ease the tension by making a light-hearted joke, but it was too late. Carrie's face hardened, and the weight of the conversation had already shifted. She stood up from her seat abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. The hosts were stunned into silence as Carrie grabbed her microphone, her eyes now locked with the camera, before turning on her heel and walking off the set. The studio was left in stunned silence. The co-hosts exchanged uncomfortable glances, unsure of what to do or say. Jenna, always composed, was left speechless, struggling to find a way to recover from the moment. The camera zoomed in on her face, and she awkwardly addressed the viewers, attempting to mask the tension that had just erupted. "Well, that was unexpected," she said, her voice faltering slightly. The atmosphere in the studio had changed in an instant. The production team quickly cut to a commercial break, and the chaos behind the scenes was palpable. Carrie's sudden exit left the Today crew scrambling to salvage the segment. Producers and staff members rushed to figure out what had gone wrong, but the damage had already been done. The internet exploded within minutes, as fans and news outlets began speculating about the reasons behind Carrie's abrupt departure. Social media erupted in a flurry of tweets, posts, and memes. Many of Carrie's fans immediately jumped to her defense, expressing their support for her decision to walk off the set. Some fans called the co-host's questioning too invasive and unprofessional, while others sympathized with Carrie's desire to protect her privacy. The hashtag #CarrieWalksOff began trending worldwide, and it wasn't long before every major news outlet picked up the story. Behind the scenes, there was a mixture of regret and frustration. Carrie had been a guest on Today many times before, and her previous appearances had always been warm and professional. The fallout from this incident was far-reaching, and it became clear that the boundaries between public and private life were not always so easy to navigate, especially for high-profile celebrities like Carrie. As the show returned from the break, Jenna and the remaining co-hosts tried to steer the conversation back to normal. Jenna addressed the viewers, apologizing for the unexpected exit and assuring everyone that they would be addressing the situation soon. "We want to be clear," she said, "that we respect Carrie and her boundaries, and we're grateful for all the guests who come on the show and share their stories with us." But the atmosphere had shifted. The audience could no longer ignore the tension that had unfolded. Carrie, meanwhile, took to social media, breaking her silence with a heartfelt message. "I appreciate my fans, my friends, and my family who always have my back," she wrote. "I'm allowed to have boundaries, and I believe in being true to myself. Sometimes that means walking away when things get too personal. Thank you for understanding." Her post quickly went viral, with thousands of people showing support for her decision and thanking her for standing up for herself. In interviews that followed, the co-host who had pushed the controversial question expressed regret, acknowledging that she had crossed a line by pressing Carrie on such personal matters. "I never intended to make Carrie uncomfortable," she said. "I respect her, and I should have been more mindful of her boundaries." The apology, while heartfelt, did little to quiet the ongoing debate about where the line should be drawn between celebrity and privacy. As the days passed, the controversy continued to snowball. Talk shows, podcasts, and news outlets discussed the incident in depth, dissecting every moment of Carrie's departure. Media outlets took sides, with some defending the co-hosts' probing questions as a part of good journalism, while others sided with Carrie, condemning the invasion of privacy. Fans, too, voiced their opinions, but one thing was clear: everyone had an opinion on what happened. Meanwhile, Carrie's career continued unaffected by the drama. In fact, her fans rallied behind her more than ever. Sales for her recent album saw an uptick, as people rallied to support the artist they had watched for years. Concert tickets sold out, and her social media following grew, as fans not only admired her music but also her courage in the face of an uncomfortable situation. The incident also sparked a larger conversation about media culture. Celebrities, once expected to share every part of their lives with the public, were now demanding the right to maintain privacy. Industry insiders began questioning whether media outlets were pushing too hard to invade the personal lives of their subjects in the pursuit of ratings and controversy. Many felt that this shift was a necessary one, as the line between entertainment and exploitation continued to blur. In the aftermath, several high-profile celebrities spoke out in support of Carrie, citing their own struggles with media intrusion. Others expressed solidarity with the co-host, emphasizing the importance of asking tough questions in interviews. The debate over celebrity privacy versus journalistic integrity raged on, but one thing was certain: Carrie's walk-off had ignited a much-needed discussion about boundaries in celebrity culture. As for Today, the producers promised to learn from the incident. They implemented new training for their hosts, emphasizing the importance of respecting their guests' personal boundaries and creating a safe environment for all. This change was met with mixed reactions, as some felt it was a positive step forward, while others felt it was a response to the pressure of public backlash. A few weeks after the incident, Carrie made her first public appearance at a major event, where she was greeted with an outpouring of love from fans and industry peers alike. Her outfit was flawless, her smile radiant, but it was her calm and collected demeanor that captured the most attention. She was asked about the incident during an interview on the red carpet, and she responded with grace. "I just want to keep doing what I love," she said, "and I've learned that it's okay to protect my peace." The conversation around Carrie's walk-off continued for months, with some outlets still referencing it in the context of future celebrity interviews. The incident became an important reference point in discussions about the evolving expectations of celebrities and the role of the media in shaping their public personas. Celebrities were increasingly seen as human beings with real emotions and boundaries, rather than just entertainment commodities to be consumed. For Carrie, this moment became a defining chapter in her career. It wasn't about the music, or even the controversy. It was about standing up for herself in a moment when many would have simply smiled through the discomfort. Her courage became an inspiration for others, both within and outside the entertainment industry, showing that it is okay to walk away when respect is no longer being given. As time passed, the event was remembered not as a scandal, but as a moment of empowerment. Carrie Underwood's decision to walk off Today became a symbol of taking control of one's narrative. It reminded people everywhere that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to walk away from a situation that no longer serves you. In the years that followed, the incident became part of Carrie's legacy, a story told in interviews and documentaries about her career. It was a defining moment, one that transcended music and fame, and became a powerful reminder of personal boundaries and the importance of standing up for yourself. Her walk-off was not an eruption of anger, but a calm and decisive refusal to let her dignity be compromised. The story of Carrie Underwood storming off Today with Jenna Friends was ultimately a lesson in media literacy. It was a reminder that celebrities are people, too, and that respecting their privacy is just as important as respecting their talents. As the years went on, the conversation evolved, with a growing recognition that boundaries are not just for the famous, they are for everyone. For fans of Carrie, the incident only deepened their admiration for her. Her unwavering confidence in the face of controversy became a key part of her public persona. They saw her not only as an artist but as a woman who knew her worth and was willing to protect it, no matter the cost. In the months after the walk-off, the Today Show made a public statement expressing regret over the incident and pledging to work on how they approached celebrity interviews moving forward. While the controversy may have left a stain on the show's reputation, it also created a shift in how interviews with high-profile guests were conducted. For the entertainment world, the Carrie Underwood walk-off remains an iconic moment. It's a powerful example of what happens when someone refuses to be treated as a spectacle for others' entertainment. It marks a change in the conversation about celebrity, media, and the lines that should never be crossed in pursuit of a good story. In the end, Carrie Underwood storming off Today was more than just a shocking moment on television. It was a statement. It was a declaration that no one, no matter how famous, should have to sacrifice their personal boundaries for the sake of entertainment. As the story continued to circulate, media critics began framing the incident as a reflection of changing audience expectations. Viewers no longer wanted to see celebrities cornered into uncomfortable confessions. Instead, many praised Carrie's decision as a sign of evolving standards, where empathy mattered more than sensational sound bites. The walk-off was no longer seen as dramatic, but deliberate, a clear signal that the rules of engagement on live television were shifting. Entertainment journalists revisited Carrie's long history in the spotlight, noting how rare it was for her to react so visibly on camera. Known for discipline, humility, and control, her decision to leave the set underscored how deeply the moment affected her. This contrast made the incident even more powerful, because it came from someone who had spent years avoiding controversy at all costs. Fans began sharing personal stories online, explaining how Carrie's action inspired them to set boundaries in their own lives. Teachers, parents, and working professionals described situations where they felt pressured to stay silent, and how watching Carrie walk away gave them confidence to speak up or remove themselves. The moment transcended celebrity news and became emotionally relatable. Media trainers and publicists weighed in, pointing out that walking off a live show is often considered a career risk. Yet Carrie's reputation remained intact, even strengthened. Experts suggested this was because her reaction felt human rather than strategic. There was no grand speech, no theatrics, just a clear decision that resonated as authentic. The Today Show's audience response surveys reportedly reflected mixed reactions, but one consistent theme emerged: Viewers wanted accountability without ambush. This feedback sparked internal discussions about interview formats, especially with guests known for guarding their private lives. Carrie's walk-off quietly influenced how future segments were structured. In fan forums, the moment was analyzed repeatedly, with viewers noting the exact point where Carrie's expression changed. Many agreed it wasn't a single question, but the persistence that followed. This detail shifted blame away from curiosity itself and toward the refusal to respect the guest's discomfort once it was clearly expressed. Carrie's inner circle later hinted that the moment was especially difficult because it occurred live, leaving no room for private clarification. The pressure of millions watching amplified the emotional weight. This context added depth to public understanding, reminding viewers how vulnerable live television can be, even for seasoned performers. As award season arrived, Carrie appeared confident and composed, receiving standing ovations that felt louder than usual. Commentators noted how the industry seemed to rally around her, interpreting her walk-off not as defiance, but as dignity. Her peers' support further solidified the narrative that she had acted within her right. The incident also reignited discussion about the role of morning shows, traditionally seen as friendly and uplifting spaces. Critics questioned whether hard-hitting personal questions belonged in that format at all. Carrie's experience became the reference point whenever that debate resurfaced. Over time, the phase stormed off softened in public memory, replaced by walked away. That linguistic shift mattered. It reframed the event from impulsive to intentional, from emotional to empowered. Language itself evolved alongside public perception of the moment. Carrie never revisited the incident in detail, and that restraint became part of her strength. By refusing to prolong the drama, she allowed the moment to stand on its own. Fans respected her silence, seeing it as further proof that her decision was about self-respect, not attention. Media historians later grouped the walk-off with other pivotal TV moments that subtly changed industry norms. Unlike explosive scandals, this one altered expectations quietly. It demonstrated that composure could be just as disruptive as outrage. Younger artists cited Carrie's experience in interviews, saying it made them feel less obligated to overshare. Her example helped normalize saying no in an industry built on access. That influence extended beyond television into music, film, and digital media spaces. Looking back, many agreed the moment worked because it lacked villains. There was discomfort, misjudgment, and consequence, but also growth. Carrie's walk-off became a shared learning experience rather than a permanent fracture. In the final analysis, Carrie Underwood's departure from Today With Jenna Friends stood as a quiet turning point. Not a scandal fueled by chaos, but a moment defined by choice. It reminded audiences that sometimes the strongest message is delivered not by staying and explaining, but by knowing when to stand up and leave. As the years pass, the moment continues to resurface whenever discussions arise about respect in media interviews. Carrie's walk-off becomes an example often cited not for its shock, but for its restraint. Viewers who revisit the clip later often say it feels calmer than headlines suggested, reinforcing the idea that the reaction was rooted in self-awareness rather than anger. Media scholars begin noting how audience empathy played a major role in shaping the aftermath. Because viewers saw Carrie's discomfort unfold gradually, they felt included in her emotional journey. This shared witnessing created a bond between the artist and the audience, making her decision to leave feel justified and deeply human. The incident also sparks conversations about consent and conversation. The idea that just because someone is public-facing does not mean every topic is fair game. Carrie's response highlights the importance of recognizing verbal and nonverbal cues, and stopping when someone signals discomfort instead of pressing for a reaction. In online discussions, people begin comparing this moment to past celebrity walk-offs that were fueled by shouting or insults. The contrast is striking. Carrie does not attack anyone, nor does she raise her voice dramatically. She simply removes herself, redefining what strength can look like on live television. Over time, the controversy fades, but the lesson remains. Morning shows subtly adjust their tone, and interviews feel less invasive. While not solely attributed to Carrie, many insiders quietly acknowledge that her walk-off contributed to this broader shift toward more mindful guest interactions. Carrie's fanbase continues to grow, with many supporters saying they admire her even more for prioritizing her mental and emotional well-being. The moment becomes part of her narrative, not as a flaw, but as proof that success does not require self-sacrifice in every situation. In retrospectives, journalists often point out that the incident occurred during a period when audiences were growing tired of confrontational media. Carrie's calm refusal aligned perfectly with that cultural fatigue, making her response feel timely and almost inevitable. The hosts involved also evolve, becoming more transparent about the challenges of live broadcasting. In later interviews, they acknowledge that balancing curiosity with compassion is an ongoing learning process. Carrie's walk-off becomes a reference point in that evolution. For aspiring artists, the story becomes instructive. It shows that maintaining boundaries does not mean being difficult or ungrateful. Carrie's experience reassures them that self-respect and professionalism can coexist, even under intense public scrutiny. As digital platforms amplify every moment, the incident serves as a reminder that not all powerful statements require words. Sometimes, choosing not to engage further sends a clearer message than any explanation could. Fans who once feared speaking up in their own lives cite Carrie's example as motivation. Her quiet strength resonates beyond entertainment, touching workplaces, relationships, and personal struggles where walking away feels necessary but difficult. Over time, the narrative shifts fully from controversy to character. Carrie is remembered less for the walk-off itself and more for how she handled it afterward, with grace, silence, and continued focus on her work. The incident becomes one of those rare moments that ages well. Instead of feeling dated or exaggerated, it continues to feel relevant as conversations about boundaries, consent, and media responsibility remain ongoing. Looking back, many conclude that the walk-off did not harm anyone involved, but instead encouraged reflection on all sides. It becomes a moment of pause in a fast-moving media world, reminding everyone to slow down and listen. In the end, Carrie Underwood's decision to leave Today with Jenna Friends stands as a quiet but lasting statement, not of rebellion, but of self-respect. A moment where dignity outweighed spectacle, and where walking away spoke louder than staying ever could. As the narrative surrounding Carrie's walk-off continued to unfold, talk show hosts and producers increasingly cited the moment as a cautionary tale. It became an example of how pushing a guest too far could backfire, damaging relationships with both the celebrity and the audience. Lessons learned from this incident influenced the design of future interviews, balancing probing questions with respect for personal limits. Social media influencers and commentators began analyzing the exchange in depth. Videos breaking down Carrie's expressions, pauses, and body language went viral, with viewers dissecting every second of her composure. Many concluded that her calm departure carried more impact than any dramatic outburst could have, proving that restraint often resonates more deeply than theatrics. The music industry also noticed the incident. Artists praised Carrie for her courage, emphasizing the importance of setting boundaries in a world where public perception often pressures entertainers to overshare. Her action became a reference point in conversations about mental health, media ethics, and celebrity autonomy. In interviews months later, Carrie reflected briefly on the incident. She explained that while walking away was difficult in the moment, it allowed her to maintain her self-respect and avoid being forced into statements she didn't want to make. Fans appreciated her honesty, and the statement was widely shared as a lesson in personal empowerment. The incident sparked broader discussions about women in the public eye, particularly regarding expectations of politeness and emotional control. Carrie's walk-off highlighted the double standard that women often are expected to tolerate discomfort and answer probing questions without complaint while still being judged for their reactions. Morning shows and daytime programming began adjusting their formats, offering more space for guests to express discomfort or redirect conversations. The subtle changes in production practices were widely attributed, in part, to Carrie's departure, showing the long-term influence a single moment could have on industry standards. In online forums and fan communities, Carrie's walk-off became a symbol of empowerment. Fans shared personal stories of standing up for themselves in workplaces, schools, or personal relationships, often referencing her actions as validation that walking away from disrespect is both acceptable and admirable. Media trainers and PR professionals began using the incident as a case study in managing high-pressure interviews. They highlighted Carrie's poise, noting how her calm yet decisive exit prevented escalation and preserved her public image. The moment became a blueprint for handling uncomfortable situations professionally. Critics revisited the incident with a more nuanced perspective. Initial outrage faded, replaced by discussions about consent and media interactions. Carrie was lauded for teaching both hosts and audiences a valuable lesson about boundaries, restraint, and emotional intelligence in public forums. Carrie's fans continued to create content inspired by the incident, from reaction videos to social media posts praising her courage. The story evolved into a viral cultural lesson, emphasizing self-respect over performative compliance, showing that walking away can be more powerful than engaging in confrontation. Even years later, the walk-off is referenced in discussions about media ethics and celebrity boundaries. Journalists use it as an example of how respect can alter the dynamic of a live broadcast, and how audiences increasingly respond positively when public figures assert personal limits confidently. The incident also influenced other celebrities, inspiring them to assert boundaries in interviews without fear of backlash. Carrie's calm but firm response became a quiet revolution in how entertainers negotiate public exposure and personal privacy. Retrospective documentaries and biographies of Carrie often include this moment as a defining event. It's framed not as a scandal, but as an important instance of personal integrity, emphasizing the balance between fame and the preservation of one's emotional space. Media ethics panels and public speaking seminars frequently analyze the incident, highlighting Carrie's ability to communicate discomfort without aggression. Her exit demonstrates that body language, timing, and composure can convey a message more powerfully than words alone. Ultimately, Carrie Underwood's walk-off from Today With Jenna Friends transcends the immediate controversy. It remains a case study in respect, courage, and self-determination, a reminder that sometimes the most impactful statement comes not from staying to debate, but from walking away with dignity intact.